Welcome to Money Chats and Mishaps, a podcast by Fam Brokers hosted by Renae Long, the director and founder of Fam Brokers.
Today we're talking to Maggie Kelly from First National at Byron Bay. She's an amazing real estate agent and she's had a couple of years in that to scope out all the best things. I hope she's seen a Hemsworth now and then. You have? Look at that. We're already on a roll.
In fact, I've got a funny story about that which I'll share with you.
Oh, okay. That's fantastic. So we will get a lot more views because of that. And then she's also had more than a decade of experience with business coaching and corporate, which brings it to the gives you a bit better perspective and understanding of how she does what she does and why she's good at what she does. So over to you, and
thanks, Renae.
Let me give us your 10-second elevator talk about you. So let's make it about you 5 minutes and then we'll have that conversation.
Or we can do a 10-second one if you like. So yes, so I guess I came into real estate from my coaching background with leaders because I'd always been interested in real estate, in property, and having bought and sold a number of times, just the emotional aspect of that is challenging. Like, it's a big investment for most people. It's their biggest investment. So I've always been really interested in the mindset, you know, our emotions, how we manage those and how that shows up in our work and our life. So I wanted to bring that element into real estate for both the owners and the sellers that I represent, as well as the buyers, and help them navigate that journey because it is an emotional one and it can be quite stressful.
And both of us work with that emotional journey that they take through finding the property, purchasing the property, financing the property, settling the property. And they're huge things, and it's one of the most stressful times in our life.
For sure.
Purchasing a property, marriage breakdown, a death, family, a friend, you know, a significant medical, they are your highest stress. And
well, they sit at the top of the stress scale, don't
exactly.
they? When you see a stress scale, those things
are the height.
And so, if you've got a few of those going on at once.
At one, you're over the 100, which means
Yeah.
your cup is overflowing in not a great way.
So true.
So that emotional and physical support for those clients is really, really important. And so what would you say to a client that wants to purchase, whether it's their first home or their investment property, some things on a real estate perspective that could benefit them?
So I guess it does depend a bit on, there's a few things that are in common, of course, Renae, like do your research, do your homework, spend the time doing that, don't take shortcuts. So for a first home buyer particularly, they're coming in green, it can be pretty overwhelming. In fact, my son, Xavier, and his girlfriend Kalani are now in that bracket that they're going to be first home buyers and they're looking. So it's interesting kind of being the mum and potentially mother-in-law to a first home buyer. Thank you. To a first home buyer, as well as having worked with them. And so for a first home buyer, I would say just slow it down a little bit. Don't be in a rush, to buy your first home. Do things properly, and you'll be working with them from a finance perspective. So I say to them, make sure that you can show the bank in terms of getting the money that you're a good bet, which means that you have saved for a deposit. You don't really want the bank of mum and dad to give you all the deposit. The banks like, the lenders like to see that you've got skin in the game and you can, you're reliable, that they can see that you've actually been putting money aside regularly.
So some banks of late have upped things and they've got 100% lends. So, and one of them's a major bank and the others are the second tiers. So in the second tiers you've got like your MyStates, your Bank of Queensland, your Suncorp. So they are banks.
Yes.
They're not, just because I would refer to them, they're not the big four, exactly. But there's some banks doing the 100%. There's some banks, most banks don't like parental guarantees now, and some don't like a family pledge. There are a lot of things to take into account. Family pledge. So they're pledging their house or an investment property. So they won't take the unoccupied property. It has to be an investment property. It has to be a certain LVR. There are so many things involved. And with a first home buyer, usually I get them at, I went out and I've signed a contract. It's unconditional. I don't have finance.
Wow. Okay.
And I've got $12,000 in the bank.
Okay, great.
And it's for $850,000 and I earn $65,000 a year.
That doesn't work, does it?
No. So I hate Wednesdays. So Wednesdays is my horror auction day. So this is the first home buyers, but this is when people come to me with unconditional contracts that they signed on Saturday. They've transferred $150,000 to the real estate agent. They own 5 other properties. They don't have any cash reserves anymore because they've transferred it across. And they're at maximum LVR with everything. And they bought this because they think they can purchase it, because they think
so they haven't checked in with you.
They haven't checked in with me, but I'm their broker. I've worked magic for them before they tell me. I'm like, I hate Wednesdays.
You're pretty good at working some magic.
Well, I have worked some magic apparently, but you know, it's those moments. So talking on here, I've had so much feedback from clients and people randomly. I was at the shopping centre the other day and a lady went, "Oh, you do a podcast?" And I'm like, I do. She went, "Yeah, my daughter's one of your clients and listened to it, and now I'm listening to it, and oh my God, some of your things have been funny, but we're going to buy a house." And they start talking to you randomly. But people don't talk to you when they need to.
Yeah.
Like they need to talk to you over here.
And that's the
they talk to you
preparation
there.
piece, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, the slowing
and that
things down.
preparation. And don't become Google doctor or Google real
Yeah.
estate agent. You go to a real estate agent for a reason. You are the subject matter expert. You have the properties. You know the values. You know what you can do for that client, and you know the process. So trust in your agent. Trust in your broker. Trust that the process is going to be right for them. The first home buyers, you don't know what you're doing because it's the first time. But it can be your 7th property and you're still confused.
And you know what I'd say to that too is, yes, work with your real estate agent, you know, work with your buyer's agent if you have a buyer's agent.
Yeah.
But also there's nothing that substitutes for you doing your own work, and there's so much information, as you'd be aware, Renae, like on realestate.com, on Domain, you know, on the different property websites. So go in and look, because
look at suburb profiles.
Yeah.
They do great suburb profiles.
That's right. They give you a medium price,
and then
which
they can
be
come to you and say,
skewed,
exactly.
but, yeah.
They can ring you up and say, "I'm looking for a property in here. Can you let me know if something comes up? And this is my borrowing capacity." That is the best way to set them up.
Absolutely.
I say go and talk to a real estate agent. And there's a big difference between a buyer's agent and a real estate agent.
Correct.
And the property market has changed in the last 3 months. It has cooled a bit.
Definitely. Well, it's funny because, as you would know, there's markets within markets too.
Yeah,
so when people
exactly.
say to, you know, ask, "Oh, how's the market?" Because that's a very
The
common
market's
question.
very hot and strong.
Yeah, well, it varies too, because the thing is, the top end of the market's always volatile.
Yeah.
But there's always buyers. So that high lux, high end, there is always buyers, and there's always money, a lot of money. But they're judicious with where they spend their money, but they will overpay to get the property they want. That's kind of a very specific part of the market. The other end is the first home buyers, maybe investors, and sometimes the first home buyers are competing with investors for that lower market where high demand for rentals, high demand in terms of price bracket, and that's a different market. So I know with my son and his girlfriend, they were looking in the Tweed Shire. They said that's hot. That lower end of the market is hot. They said they go into an open home, first open home, they hear someone saying to the agent, "I'd like to make an offer."
Yeah.
First open home, so they've now shifted to Moorlambar. They get more for their money, a freestanding house.
Yeah.
So it really depends, and then you sort of up to a price bracket. You'll have your medium part of the market where there's a reasonable volume, and then once you get over a certain price bracket, like over 3 in Byron, for example, that then drops off, and it's a more specific, you know, it's less buyers.
It's the demographics, what they can do, but I found that there's been 6 months ago to 3 months ago, there was a lot more unique properties, shall we say. The luxury properties, they're still being sold and bought, and some beautifully stunning properties. I've got a client that bought a property in Kirrawee, down in just sort of south East Sydney.
Yeah.
Stunning, beautiful home, but they paid over because that's what they wanted.
Yeah, and that's okay. You know, as long as they're clear, they're paying over. So if they want. So a friend of mine in Melbourne did the same thing. She said, "I know I'm paying over,
but
had
she
it for
couldn't
20
find
years,
what she wanted.
And they've had it for 20 years, and it's now actually got another $2 million at least in equity.
Nice.
Because they're sat on it. And that's the thing too with property, and I'm sure you talk to your clients about this, is unless you're flipping property and you really understand what you're doing, is it's a hold strategy. Like your money is going to be tied up in that property, so just be thoughtful and consider.
And it is those mountains that follow up. I had a client in 2015, 16 purchased a house for just under 400,000. He sold it for 1.3 million, 1.2 to 3 million. So, or 1.4 million. He made nearly $1 million profit in that house over the time, but he held it. Some people have sold. I had a client that owned a house for 25, 30 years at North Shore. They had bought it for 200 and something thousand back in the day.
Yes.
They sold $4 million.
Yes.
And that was 18 months ago, 2 years ago. But it's that holding time. That's how you make money on. If you're flipping your property every 2 years and things like that, that
your entry and exit costs are too
much.
expensive.
You need to know what to do. And finding those, with all the DIY shows, I get couples. So one's a tradesman and one is either a tradie or fancy themselves in decorator or stylist. Exactly. Yeah. And I get a lot of those, and they say, oh, we want a house to flip. Okay, this is your borrowing capacity. And then they'll come back and go, I can't find anything unless it's a Rockhampton.
Yeah.
You know, so...
And also the thing too now is the flipping has become a little bit on the nose, and unless people are informed, they can absolutely, be burnt.
Yes. Because
the costs of building now, the whole time in terms of getting DAs approved through councils, that all slowed down through, COVID, and it hasn't really recovered, so it's long to get DAs approved.
And it's more costly than it was.
Much more costly. So double in lots of cases.
So a DA approval is a development approval.
Yes.
So
correct,
whether you're expanding, extending, if it's construction and development works on that property, whether you're building a new one or whether you're renovating and gutting, you have to put that to council.
That's right. And there's some simple things where you don't need to, like simple interior changes. Yeah. But if it's things like major things like wet areas, kitchens, bathrooms. Yeah. I had a client that bought a property from me and it had a carport rather than a garage, and others in the complex had garages. So we checked with the local town planner. I said, I'm pretty sure with the floor space ratio you're not expanding it, which means you're not actually adding on to the house or the garage area. And as long as you keep it at its original use, which is for a car, not turn it into a studio, which happens a bit in Byron. Yeah. There's some interesting configuration. No, definitely not. So in that kind of case you can, but once again it comes back to, as we've said, I guess the key message is do your homework. Don't just rely on experts.
And do your homework
research.
And work with experts. But
yes.
Do your homework and don't go on to... Sometimes Reddit is not your friend.
No.
On
their opinions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's an opinion base. Yeah. And we've all got different opinions on things. But historically we can look at data for certain things that it's been happening for 200 years. Some things change. Like now we don't always log into Google for searches. We talk to our phone while we're driving and it gives us the response we need.
Siri does talk to you sometimes without you wanting to talk
yes, to her. Yeah. I was in the shopping centre the other day with my granddaughter and I said something and I started to get directions. And my granddaughter said, Nana, your phone's talking to you. And she's just turned 5 and she's like, oh, can you not do that? But it's true. But people, you don't go on Google Doctor to find what your symptoms are. You go and get diagnosed by a doctor. Yes, very, very bad idea. And you help people through the whole process. You assess the houses for sale, but you also find the buyer for the actual property.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess the difference between a buyer's agent and a real estate agent is a buyer's agent is someone that is taken on board by a buyer who often doesn't have the time, or they're not located where they want to buy, or they don't have the confidence to manage, the sourcing and transaction of a property, and so they'll pay them a fee to find the property for them. A real estate agent, it acts on behalf of the vendor or the owner. So they will work with the buyer because, of course, you're wanting to make that match in terms of helping a buyer find what they want, helping a seller sell their house, but they do have to represent legally the owner of the property. So it's important buyers understand that. The other thing I would say for buyers is, with all the trend, as you were saying, with the schmoozing and, of, houses, not schmoozing, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Anyway, you know what? Making it look great, is human beings are emotional beings. We like to think we're rational. No one is rational. We're just not, and so we're very easily seduced.
And seduction, especially with property.
Yeah.
Did you know
with the styling?
In Australia, every second, 1,000 people search property.
I know.
Every
property
second.
Mad. That's crazy, isn't it?
We are so property mad.
Yeah.
We are one of the highest ranks in the world. I mean, we're not number one, but every second, 1,000 people. Every second. So 1 second, 1,000, 2 seconds, 1,000, 3 seconds, 1,000.
Especially when you think about population. Like, we're not a big country. We're a big country, but it's small.
We're not 47 billion people.
Yeah.
So, it's amazing.
It's coming back to having a cool head and really challenging yourself not to make a decision when you're feeling emotional.
That is the best advice.
Yeah.
Because people fall in love with the property and
we've done it. I've done it. I've done it before. I was in real estate.
Yeah.
And we bought a property that in fact needed, in Sydney, on the North Shore, which, because of the topography, was steep, so it needed major civil work to do the renovation we wanted. So we were quoted $1 million as well.
Wow.
So, beautiful water views. But, it just, to have that capital then to do the development.
And sometimes it's not. And the sexiness of that property building and the block and the Renae brothers and this and that and this and that, you've got so many people wanting to do that because in it they make so much money. However, they don't take into consideration, some do, some don't, but there's the cost to the you and me. So if we said, oh, this is great, but if we bought a property with our heart and not our head, you're going to overpay.
Yeah.
If it is your last home you want to be with and you are totally in love, happy days.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're not and you're buying it as an investment, don't buy the house you think is the most beautiful one when there's another house that's really good as well. And it's a wealth management strategy for that future. Yeah. That's what a property should generally be used for.
Definitely.
It's your home and your wealth.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that balance of, like, if it's an investment, you should need to look through just the lens of investment. If it's your own home, yes, you want to find somewhere that you want to live in, but particularly for the first home buyers where they're watching these shows, selling sunset, beautiful homes, Instagram, all the socials where they portray the best. You're not going to have that for your first home, and it's unrealistic to expect that, and you actually don't want that. Because,
and a lot of them are very disappointed.
You want to add value. You actually need to, we said to our son, find a property where you can add value to it. Like, start to practice skills like, painting. Like, he's actually a trained carpenter.
Yeah.
As of a year ago, but that helps.
But
if you don't have those skills, there's lots of little things you can do yourself to add value, like the gardening, and like, look at where you can add value, and this is where you can talk to your real estate agent and say, what is going to add value, what's not. And
you're the person that knows. You see hundreds of people selling their property, and you see the comments that the buyers, correct. So you see both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
When the buyers come in, so when you see those hidden camera shows, you think, I just said the bathroom's black, oh, I hate that, or oh wow, it's very dark, it smells musky, it's dirty, too cluttered, things like that. And then some people go to extremes and put if a house, is this true? And I've seen it, so this is my opinion. If a house is empty, I wouldn't like to buy it.
Yes, and the interesting thing is, and I still can't get my head around this, is when a house is empty, there's a couple of things that happen, which is, one, everything looks smaller. And you would think it's the opposite.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
So everything looks smaller. And because we're human beings, i.e. we have life in us, there's something empty and soulless about an empty property. No matter how beautiful it is, it just doesn't have life in it and doesn't have energy. So we're not as attracted to it. And so consequently, we're much less likely to, one, want it, or two, pay what the owner wants. So I would always say to an owner, don't sell an empty home. If you can, get it fitted out, even if you don't do the whole house, and just put some basic styling. Like, and say you can go to Kmart and get some pretty decent cushions and styling stuff now. You don't have to pay someone. If you can, it is worth the money.
It is worth the money.
Yeah, depending on the property.
There was a property on a very good suburb in Brisbane, and they had it vacant. They couldn't sell it, and theirs was subject to another sale, but it had a 3-month contract. If they couldn't sell it. The real estate agent said, you would sell this in a heartbeat if it was styled.
Yes.
They paid the money for the styling.
Yep.
And they actually got a contract at the first open house after that.
Absolutely.
And it was somebody who'd gone in there that said, I couldn't imagine it could look like this.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of buyers can't imagine it. And I guess there's another interesting thing too for sellers. This would definitely be a hot tip, which is live mode versus sell mode. And live mode.
Explain that a bit more. I like that, but explain that a bit more.
So live mode is how we live. You know, we go home, we might have things on the end of the bench, you know, paperwork and stuff. We go, just to remind me, so I've got photos of family or the cats and the dogs in the fridge. You know, we've got a bit of clutter around because we don't live like we're in a museum. But when we're selling, a buyer wants to see themselves living there. They don't want to see your stuff. They don't want clutter. They don't want to smell dog or cat. They don't want to see dog hair. They don't want to see the dog bed or
they don't want to see the
dog
cigarette
toys.
in the kitchen.
They don't want to see any of that, and they want things to be clean.
Is it true people should like brew coffee and put bickies out for people? Because I get told that all the time by different people. And they're like, we've sold 15 houses because we, and we want to buy this, we want to buy that, but we used to brew coffee every time we sold it like that.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a myth.
So it is a bit of a myth because that's kind of old 80s kind of style thing, and people get onto that. Coffee does have an appealing smell, so I think if you've got the coffee brewing on the stove, then don't do that. But you know, you could have made coffee and then have it smell just before people come in. That's good. Yeah. Vanilla is the number one smell, along with cut grass.
Really?
Universally, people love.
Wow.
So if you've got a good vanilla aromatherapy candle, I wouldn't say burn a real candle because there's a risk. There has been a house that's burnt down.
Really?
After leaving candle on, not in the Byron Shire.
Okay.
But I would say that owners never leave a candle burning. You just don't know what can happen. It's also a risk with children
you can have
coming
those
in.
Sticks.
Yeah.
Or you could have the candle and then you block it off.
That's right, or aromatherapy where you've got the electric ones, diffusers, but use good quality ones because that chemically kind of stuff doesn't work.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Citrus is a nice, good, fresh smell for people too. So smell, people are very sensitive to. They don't want to smell animals or what you made for breakfast or something. So open all the windows up and the doors, the curtains, lights. People want light, air. And first impressions are super important. So on arrival, think of it putting yourself in the buyer's shoes, and through the buyer's eyes, they're going to look at your front fence. They're going to look at your mailbox. They're going to look, is it the garden, pruned and trees as well.
So you talked about houses on steep inclines before. So if somebody is selling a property on, and I imagine it would be very different. If somebody's got a level block of land and they've got kids, they think that was great, because for me, I'd look for that when I was younger, for the kids to run around.
Yes.
And the dog and whatever.
Absolutely.
Right, so that's what I would be. I would be looking for a fenced property with this and this. So is it easier to sell a level property than one on a hill or with an incline?
So yes and no.
Okay.
It depends on the buyer.
Okay.
So absolutely, for a family, it's a different, and with young children, their needs are different to, for example, maybe a couple that now have adult children that moved out will come home and they want the elevation for a view, or so it really does depend on what the buyer wants. So yes, for a family, they love a fenced, yard because of the safety aspect. They love a pool. They like level ground so they can put the play equipment and so on, a sand pit.
So what if you have an incline? What would you suggest a person can do to make that more appealing? I know it's a random question. But
no, not at all. So like if there's an incline, in fact, I've said to my son, just be very wary of slopes and where they're sloping. If you've got a back sloping down towards the house, you need to check there's adequate drainage so you're not having water issues. So I would say to the owners, without over-capitalising, look at where the water courses are and is it creating damage to your property, and can you put a drain in, or can you divert that somewhere, or plant or terrace, so that takes care of it. And the other thing is, for buyers, unless they're into forest regen or rainforest regen, which there are a few people in Byron who do that, but generally that's a small number of people, is make it easy for people to live there. So a buyer comes in and says, I want this to be easy for me to live, because most people are time poor. And you'll have some people that love getting their hands dirty and being in the garden all the time. But the majority of people also want to look at something and go, I can take care of that. So plant things that are easy to look after. Have the garden mulched. If it's a slope, then you might consider putting some terracing in. You could do that yourself, or I'd probably get some consultation with the landscape garden to do it properly, or you might do it in combination with them. So you don't either have to outsource or do it all yourself. Yeah. So
you can do a bit of both. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great advice. So with the property market, so for you, what makes you different or the same even as other real estate agents? I can set you apart for things. And then you have the Hemsworth story. I'm not forgetting that one.
Look, I think I'd like to think that every real estate agent is unique because they're a human being. Yeah. I do like to take a very human approach, because we've bought and sold, we've also developed property. I project managed a whole build. We started out to do a cosmetic reno, and then I said, actually, it's full of asbestos, just rip the whole thing back to the hardwood frame, and I decided to project manage that. Oh, wow. And work with the trades, which was great. I absolutely loved it, and I learned a lot. So I guess because I've worn many hats, I've been an investor, a property developer, managed a build, bought and sold, been a first home buyer, have rented, for a number of years. So I've been in all those situations, and then as a coach, I really like to understand what people need and what they want, and they're two different things. Yes. And take the time to understand the owners that I'm working with and what's important to them, and provide transparency of communication, because that's often the biggest criticism of real estate agents.
Communication, and I'll bring up that point about the coaching. So I have another business that works with and that does financial wellness and financial education, because I think that financial literacy component is really lacking out there. Yeah. People don't know, and you don't know what you don't know until you're told. Yeah. And sometimes you can go down that rabbit hole. Some people have the capacity, and it's that long-term assisting them with their goals and coaching of where they are now to where they want to be. And it's that expectation in the meantime. So somebody might want to be here. Somebody might be here, but they want to be over here. But you need to get them to here before they can progress up and go up and go up.
You can't jump from there.
And it's looking at, so we'll do everything from discussing their individual financial situations to their property portfolio or their lack of property portfolio, and where they want to be from A to B. And it's not A to B anymore, it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah. Because there are things along the way. And there's other avenues to explore with that. So from your money, and it's really their wealth and property goals that you look at, and getting them from that education side of it to how they get there, to going along and revisiting that along the way, and making the products and things that they have work for them to get them to A, B, C, D, E, G.
Because everyone's journey is different, isn't it?
Exactly.
And that's such an
that
important
tailored
thing to
approach.
do. Yeah.
And you look at that tailored approach because you've got such that broad spectrum. So people can get caught up in the weeds sometimes and get that, and I call it getting your sad on. I've got one girl that we've talked about, okay, she wants to be here. She's here at the moment. She was closer to there, but she got divorced. And divorce always sets someone back. A life event always sets you back, and it takes you a long time. They say that when you move a property, it takes you 12 months to recover. Now,
so what do you mean by move a property?
Well, if they move, so if they sell a property and move, to recoup the expenses and time and everything, it takes you 12 months. Yeah. If you move and it's 2 moves. So if you have even a portability loan, or if you have a house that you've bought to expand on, even if it's to move a tiny home onto another property, that sets you back financially as well as physically to where you are, because you can have more debt, which impacts that part of it.
Yes.
Have you rented that out? Do you know how to rent that out? Have you done it in the right process? So looking at all of those catch-alls, we're not giving you financial advice, but what we're doing is looking at your wealth creation and where you are at the moment, how this is what you want to do. You tell me what you want, you link other people with where you're going, but that financial literacy component in the beginning, and to review all of their financial mapping and all of their mapping of their, some people have one house, some people have none, some people have, I had a client with 23 houses.
Wow. Yeah.
And, you know,
and a lot of complexity with that.
A lot of complexity. And banks also treat you differently if you have more than 4 properties. And some banks
in
reduce...
terms of risk.
Well, in terms of risk and how they assess you.
So they assess you commercially then, or
some banks will assess you commercially, but some banks will stick to residential. However, they'll reduce things. So when you're looking at, on average, when you purchase property, they only look at 80% of the rental income. If you have 4 to 6 properties, some banks reduce that to 60% of the rental income.
They do that for a granny flat too, don't they?
Yes.
A lot of people don't know that.
Yes, they reduce it for granny flats.
Yeah.
And dual living occupancies.
Yeah.
So they reduce it, and people think, I'm going to get $1,200 a week.
Yeah.
Actually, they've reduced it. They're servicing you on $700, $800, and they're like, well, that's ridiculous.
Which goes back to why they should be talking to you up front
and
really
exactly.
working that through
and getting that plan through, and having the people to plug in to make their plan a reality.
Yes.
And that's where you come into play, because you can have a look at things and you've got that experience, and I can come into play because I've got experience over here, and somebody else has got experience over there.
That's right.
And it's
work with your experts and partners.
54% of my clients are self-employed. So you look at a large proportion of self-employed people, they've all got different industries, they've all got different information, and you'll work with developers and carpenters and tradesmen, and every tradesman, I love every single tradesman I've ever worked with has said, I'll be able to fix it. And you're like, I love that attitude.
Yeah.
And they get in and they do. Yeah. And they do.
Yeah.
So, and then you work with some people that need the nudge so many times that you approached me, look, I don't want, and I feel like there's one particular person at the moment, she wants to buy so badly, but she can't shoot the starting gun.
Yeah, it's a confidence,
it's
a trust,
it's
a
a
risk
confident
aversion.
trust.
Yeah.
So I said to her, look, you come back to me. She said, no, if you don't contact me,
she won't.
I'm not going to do it at all. I said, but I've contacted you 6 times. I feel like I'm pushy. I said, and I'm not pushy. She said, no, you're not pushy. She said, the real estate agent has contacted me 24 times. And I went, what? I went, wow. She said, he has given us about 40 houses. I went, do they meet your remit? Is it what you want? Oh, some of the houses have been. I said, have you gone to see them? Oh, we went to see 2. I said, but you didn't like them? Yeah, we did. But somebody said at the open home, we want to put an offer in. Oh, so we walked away. I went, your offer might have been better. You could have had that home.
Well,
their
position.
Offering
terms too.
Offering terms, yeah. So they're 50% cash buyer, which puts them in a different league than some other people.
Yeah.
So if you're a 95% LVR, if you're a 100% cash buyer, the more you have, the easier the terms. If you've sold your property and you need to get into a property in 21 days and you've got a portability loan, or you've got the cash there, the bridging loan's happening. I mean, I don't make money from a bridging loan, but I'll do a bridging loan for somebody because they need it and they're my clients. But they'll come back to me. So swings and roundabouts what we do.
Absolutely.
We do financial literacy for a Year 12 student, and they start banking at, and by the time they finish uni, they've got a couple of $1,000 in their account.
I love that. It's
so it
important.
shows.
Yeah. I love that you're doing this work, Renae.
But it makes a difference.
Important. It makes a difference because it's interesting. Money sex, religion, they're kind of taboo subjects.
Yes, but they shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be.
But I had the funniest experience when we were in Sydney and we bought a property in Sydney. This one that was, the $1 million. And when I walked into the bank, this was a long time ago, and with a bank check, and the woman behind the counter, she was charged. She goes, you bought a house? How muchy? And I was like really taken aback. But then I told her, because it's like, actually, that's such a healthier attitude.
Yeah.
The Chinese, I think Asians in general are actually much more upfront around their money, whereas Australians tend to be a little bit more. But
there's a lot of people that are, a lot of people, it's a taboo subject.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
I
say to some people, it's offended one person once. So
we're always going to offend someone.
Yes. I say, tell me where the body's buried and I can work with it. Because you have some people that are amazing, but they've got 1 or 2 skeletons in the closet. The banks always find out, so tell me up front. I don't care, I don't judge.
Yeah.
I had a girl, so I've got 5 OnlyFans clients. And people go, they're OnlyFans. Do you know what? None of my business. They're working, they're licensed, and they're putting in tax returns.
Yeah.
None of my business apart from that.
Yes.
And okay, they want to buy property. Great. They've got 20% deposit within 12 months or within 2 years or 2.5 years. To save that sort of money, that's amazing. So influencers I've had before. One girl, she found it really hard to purchase and she just wanted this apartment in a specific building in Brisbane. But she would receive about $200,000 to $300,000 worth of goods, travel, food and everything. We worked out with one of the mainstream banks that she didn't pay for food because she went out because she was pictured and that was her lifestyle.
Yeah.
They gave her a shorter term loan, but they gave her more than she would if she couldn't have claimed some of those because it made sense. But she had contracts with some of these places. So her cars, she had cars given to her. She had 4 to 5 cars. So she'd keep them for 12 months. She'd sell them. Somebody else would give her another car to drive. She'd be flown over to Bali or Thailand or she was flown to Hawaii, she was flown to Germany for specific events and things. She was flown to Germany by a beer company, I think it was, for Oktoberfest.
Did you drink?
I don't know. But all she needed to do was show certain things. So
I guess it's like,
depends.
it depends. It's like, this is where it's working with a good mortgage broker too, because when you don't fit the standard, like sometimes we'll have clients that come to us. No, and they say, I've got a bank manager, a bank that I work with. And I say every day of the week, of course, talk to them, but I'm going to connect you with a couple of mortgage brokers because they deal with like 50 lenders. Yeah. And the thing
most mortgage brokers are accredited with 22 to 48 plus lenders.
Yeah.
If you've got an ACL, it's 100 plus. But if you go into one place, that's the only person you get. When you're looking for a house, you go to more than one real estate agent.
Correct.
When you're selling your house, you go to more than one real estate agent. You research. But when you're buying a house and you need the finance for it and you go into a bank, I'll often get people to say, we got declined and we don't know why. Okay, great. You got declined because this happened. I defaulted. I went to the Commonwealth Bank, and this is just an example. It's real but not the right bank. So I went to the Commonwealth Bank. I was knocked back by them because I didn't pay a personal loan off 5 years ago. And it's on your credit file. So it's like, tell me that you've got a hiccup.
Yeah.
What was the reason for the hiccup? I recently had a first home buyer. She wasn't a first home buyer. She was originally my first home buyer, but she was in a DV situation. She provided all the details. She had, her credit was a bit in disrepute. She got her credit fixed because she had her ex's, there was issues. So her ex had put credit against her name and defaulted. So it actually wasn't her. So she was in the process of going to court. I linked her with a credit fix agency, and it was easy because she had all the court documents, she had the medical, she had everything to prove it wasn't her fault, and it wasn't her that did it. I've had clients that have
just on that,
identified.
I'm just thinking that's a really good point, Renae, which are probably a lot of borrowers, especially early borrowers or first home buyers, or they're not aware that it's so important to look after your credit rating.
Yes.
Where would they go to find out their credit rating?
So Equifax, Ilion, and so there's 3 credit, and there's 1 credit source that everyone uses. ClearScore is your approximate, pretty much, but it's not the Equifax. So every bank will go to Equifax. There's Ilion as well and Esperon. So they're the 3 that every bank goes to. And the bank doesn't do just 1 credit check now. They do across the board. It doesn't flick on your credit file for each 3. It flicks on it once.
Right.
So when they do it, they search everything because something may be on one and not on another. So best practice, you do it across everyone to make sure. If they're going to lend you $500,000, $2 million, $5 million, then they want to know that you're going to be able to pay it back.
Yes.
So banks don't lend. Some people still have that idea, I don't want to get into trouble. Banks don't lend like they used to, so there's best interest duties and other things. But Equifax, Ilion and Esperon, if you want to go somewhere, go onto Equifax or go onto Ilion. They will be your 2 main credit files, and you get a free one every 3 months.
Can't you?
Yeah. You can access it publicly. Google it, go online. It's free for 12 months, and you can get it updated for free.
And then they send you updates regularly, don't they?
Yeah.
And also
and if
something
anything
happens on your
if something happens,
file.
you can tick that. Make sure that you tick that box so that all the alerts come back to you, and you can pay for alerts as well, because that also helps with a segue to a lot of people get their identity stolen, and they don't know for
common?
Years. It is a lot more common than you think.
Yeah.
A lot more common.
Yeah.
And people having their MasterCard and Visa card, and when we look at the bank statements, I said to one client once, you spent $28,000 in this account in the last 6 months. Are these once off? What are they for? What do you mean? So $12,500 of them was somebody who had hacked their MasterCard, which they all got sorted, but it took them 3 months. It was a pain for them, but it got done. But without doing those things, you don't identify it. And the credit score is so important.
Yes.
So important.
Looking after it, isn't it? So that it affects your lending.
It affects all of
which is that preparation again
everything.
too.
Yeah. And it can affect your employment as well. Because so in the banking and finance industry, you've always got to do your bankruptcy check, your credit check, and they look at that. So if you're working for Treasury, or if you're working for, you could be working for a private lender or anybody in specific industries, your credit will be checked if you're signing off.
Actually, it's the other thing to be aware of too in that as well, just everything's more public, and so when people are posting on social media, is just being aware, because employers will now go into your social media account if it's public and actually check you out.
So banks do that too. Banks Google you. Don't think a bank does not Google you. They Google you, and if they find something, so you can have a current affair, you could have done something or been somewhere or worked somewhere. If you've been filmed and photographed and you're on the internet, they're going to find you. So tell everybody up front and be honest. And when people come to you, they might say, oh, well, I haven't done my taxes, but I know I can get this. I can still get a commercial property. I'm going to do a low-doc loan. There's different loans for different things as well. And commercial property is a different kettle of fish, shall we say, as a residential. So do you do much in the commercial space, or what would you say to somebody if they wanted to buy a commercial property?
It's assessed completely differently to residential. It's per square metre. It's where there's leases in place, the quality of those leases, the length of those leases. Where the CPI has been included. So you really need to understand it's a whole different ballgame to residential. Commercial, someone purchasing commercial tends to be more sophisticated. In terms of they've often bought residential already, perhaps they've worked in the area, they understand it, but you definitely need to do your homework and understand what that means.
And you have to work with a real estate agent.
It's a good idea too, because it's much more, some people only like to buy commercial because it's much more buttoned up. There's formulas, and you can assess very quickly what the value of a property is per square metre and so on in the leases.
So I'll often get somebody that has $700,000 combined in their super fund, and they want to move their machinery shop or something, and they found this new build, so they're like, okay, I'm going to contact these guys, can I do it? and you'll do the assessment, yes, but have you set up a self-managed super fund? So they need to be aware that that takes a couple of weeks.
Yes.
And then your finance will take a couple of weeks because it's a non-recourse, limited recourse loan, but it's under the commercial space. Usually commercial loans, different to a self-managed super fund commercial loan, is a lot quicker.
Yes. Yeah.
So terms and conditions,
okay. Yeah.
terms and conditions makes a difference.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And it comes back to just that preparation again as well, doesn't it? And knowing you got the facts before you're going and making an offer on things.
Yeah. So now, your funny story. You've got to share your funny story.
Oh, with Chris Hemsworth.
Yep.
Oh, there's a few, yeah, but it's funny, we're sitting at the farm, and probably a lot of people, if you've been to Byron, you know the farm.
Yeah.
Beautiful spot as you're coming in off the highway on your left.
Yeah.
So we were sitting out on the deck having breakfast, and I was like, why are those people staring at us? And I'm like, actually, there's people staring at us as well. And then all of a sudden, I turned around and Chris Hemsworth and his wife Elsa and the two children.
Behind it, like, I felt so popular. Well, you are stunning, so you know, they could have been looking at you too.
No, it's definitely them.
Yeah.
And Chris Hemsworth is actually, the other time I noticed him, people he was walking through one of the markets, the Bangalow monthly market, which is fabulous if you haven't been there.
Yeah.
And he's walking through the marketplace with one of his kids on his shoulder, so he's about like 7 foot tall.
Oh, yeah, because he's a reasonably tall fellow.
He's pretty tall and
Yeah,
he's big,
big.
so yeah. So yes,
Oh,
an
wow.
imposing presence.
Yeah.
But you know, it's funny in real estate around the Byron Shire because people are attracted to Byron because it is a beautiful, really beautiful area.
It's very relaxed in its feeling when you go down there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's managed to maintain that feeling. You know, when people say it's changed, it's like, well, yes, there's been some development and so on, but it's still got that
But it's
beautiful
still
feel
very,
and very relaxed.
Yeah.
And so people come for that community, relaxed feel, you know, the vibe.
Yeah,
and
the vibe, I was
the
about to say
beauty
that, yeah.
as well, because you've got the most beautiful beaches.
The
all around
ocean
there.
and beaches, yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad surfing.
And good surfing, yes.
And you've got the lighthouse.
The lighthouse is
and,
amazing.
Yeah, it's a lovely walk out there.
And great food.
Oh,
coffee,
the food, but the food and the view.
Yes,
You know, even if you go to the surf club, the view's amazing.
Yes.
You go for a walk, the view's amazing.
Yeah.
It's cool, it's relaxed, the vibe is nice.
It is nice, yeah.
Yeah.
And very friendly. You know, people
Yeah.
are very friendly as well.
And that shop on the corner, I always get books in there.
The bookshop?
Yeah,
Oh, that's a fabulous
oh my
bookshop.
God. But they have unusual books too. I
They
love
do.
that.
And they support local authors.
Oh, do they?
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah. So I
But
went
that's
to a book
really
launch
good.
last week and they're really very good, and I think that's what's nice about Byron is they do support the locals in terms
Yeah.
of keeping that interest factor going
Yeah. Oh, wow.
and community, which
Nice.
is really lovely, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Oh, there you
yeah,
go.
yeah. So if you go to Byron, definitely go and check out the bookshop because it's got fabulous books.
Yeah,
And good
I'm-
coffee there too.
I'm a book. Yeah.
Yes.
I love books.
Because
But
there's a
yeah.
coffee shop literally next to the bookshop, just part of the bookshop, so you can grab a good book and coffee. And
So we're recording on the Gold Coast at the moment.
Yes.
So Maggie has driven up from Byron. Now, some people think Byron is 10 minutes from the Gold Coast. It's not.
it's an hour.
It's an hour.
Yeah.
And in bad traffic, it's 2. It's like Brisbane.
So pick your times.
Brisbane, exactly.
Yeah.
It's picky times. So she's been lovely enough to drive all the way up, and now she has to fight the traffic and drive all the way back with all of the roadworks at Burleigh. So, yeah. No, next time, hopefully, we'll be at the new office at Robina, and it's got a new purpose built as well. It's really hard to find a podcast studio that is a real podcast studio.
Yeah.
That has the mics, that has the cameras, that has all the recordings and everything. And because when you go to certain places, and you pay for a recording studio,
Yeah.
it's not free, but they look and feel and sound so much better than the Zooms. And sometimes you have to do a Zoom with somebody because they're in Melbourne or Sydney,
Yes.
or I did a Zoom with somebody the other day in Singapore.
Yeah.
The quality is just so much different, and so is the
And just the
the
feeling
sound.
too, I
Yeah,
think, as well.
because
Yeah.
we bounced off one another with
Yeah.
things. So I can't thank you enough for coming on my podcast
That's a
today.
pleasure. It was fun.
So you've given great tips on that. If you need a really good Chris Hemsworth spotter, no. If you need a really good real estate agent or business coach, if you're doing a property development, if you are a first home buyer, if you are an investor, if you're looking for property, Maggie's your gal.
And I'm just happy to help too, so yeah.
and she can find you an amazing house in and around that area. You've got
It's
some beautiful
houses,
properties.
yeah. And whether you're just starting out or looking for your dream property, there's really something for everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Renae.
Thank you for coming in, and yeah.